The following program is a production of the Fairfax Network, Fairfax County Public Schools.
Welcome to Meet the Author. I'm your host, Emily Godfrey. Joining me today via Zoom is children's author Maria Gianferrari. Welcome, Maria. Also joining us via Zoom are students from Island Creek Elementary School. Hello, Island Creek Crocs. Maria writes nonfiction books about animals in the natural world. She also writes fiction books, many of which are about her favorite subject, dogs. Some of these book titles include Operation Rescue Dog, Hello Goodbye Dog, The Penny and Jelly books, and her most recent, Being a Dog, A Tail of Mindfulness. Now, Maria, I can't help but saying this, but all of those books about dogs are just pawsome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Well,
especially since I'm a former Virginia resident, so it's nice to have that connection again.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've learned a lot about how you adopted and rescued many pups over the years, and that your recent book, Being a Dog, A Tale of Mindfulness, was inspired by one of the dogs you rescued. Would you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So we adopted our dog, Becca. That was back in August of 2006. And there she is. And she was in our family for almost 14 years. And she was my writing companion. And she would sit in the study with me as I wrote and snore, and we would take walks together. And we chose, my husband's a scientist, and we chose our sabbatical destination in California so Becca could accompany us. I would have liked to have gone to Australia, but it would have been too difficult to have her travel there. So she was just a very integral part of the family. And she died in November 2019. And so I was very depressed for a couple of months because I really missed her. And then when I was ready to start writing again, this book came out. So I think of it as her gift to me.
Well, thank you for telling us. I know that can be really hard, but it sounds like a beautiful thing came out of this, this awesome book. And I know that our second grade students from Island Creek have some questions for you. So who has the first question for Miss Maria?
Hi, my name is Shanique, and my question is, why did you want to be an author?
Why did I want to be an author? Well, I think, I always loved books and reading. And one of the things as a kid, like when I was your age, I was very, very shy. So I like to spend a lot of time alone. And that's pretty conducive to being an author because you spend a lot of time by yourself writing and thinking and that sort of thing. So.
All right. Who has the next question for our author?
Hi, my name is Clara. Where did your interest in animals come from?
I think it's kind of connected to my answer that I gave for the previous question. So I was and still am rather introverted and shy, and I've always felt a special connection with animals. I think because you can communicate with them without talking, just being in the same, room with them or whatever. And so I've always felt a special kinship with all kinds of creatures and the natural world too.
And I think we have a picture of you as a grade school student.
Oh, that was me in first grade, yes.
All right, who has the next question?
Hi, my name is Maggie. How do you get your ideas?
How do I get my ideas? Well, sometimes it's something that I've read, or maybe it's something that I've heard on the news, or with the nature books, it might be a creature that I'm interested in learning about and curious about. Like I've written books on owls and coyotes and bobcats. So, and then it's whatever ideas sort of don't go away, because you get lots of ideas, but the ideas that kind of stick with you are the ones that I tend to evolve into books, if that makes sense.
I like that you mentioned that it's your own curiosity that propels you to write these books. Like you want to find out more about them. That's really cool.
Absolutely.
All right, who has the next question?
Hi, my name is Imran. Where do you get ideas and information about animals other than dogs?
Other than dogs. Oh, so where do I find the information? So I definitely do a lot of research. And one of my favorite things to do is to watch like nature videos, because then you can sort of observe animals in their native habitat. Like one of my favorite websites I love birds, is the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. So ornithology is the study of the science of birds. And they actually have cameras in nests. So you can see the birds lay their eggs and the eggs hatch, and then the hatchlings grow to fledglings, and then they fly off. So it's pretty cool because you can see the kinds of prey that the parents give and watch them grow. It's amazing. So it's one of my favorite places to look.
Was that some of the research that went into the book Hawk Rising?
Yes. So they have 2 resident hawks that live on the campus of Cornell. And every year they nest together. And so, so you can actually watch them, which is very, very cool. See it all in action.
All right, who has the next question?
Hi, my name is Carson. Who makes the drawings for your books?
Oh, that's a great question. So I am very fortunate to work with a lot of amazingly talented illustrators and artists. And usually what happens is when the publisher and the editor acquire a manuscript, then they work with the art director in the publishing house to find someone to do the illustrations for the book. So, and it depends on the tone, or like if it's a funny book, like this is kind of Pete's illustrations for Being a Dog, which we're going to talk more about, I guess, are kind of very sweet and joyful. And then I have a book like this one on bobcats, and the illustrations are very realistic. It almost looks like a photograph. So it depends on the kind of story. And then they try to find an illustrator that fits the tone of the story. So if it's funny and silly, or if it's a little more serious, that sort of thing. So the publisher does it.
Yeah, we love the illustrations for Being a Tree.
Yeah, I have that here too. Be a Tree. The illustrator's name is Felicita Sala. She's based in Rome, Italy. Yeah, I love her art. I was very delighted when I found out she was going to be doing the illustrations for the book. She's one of my favorite illustrators.
That's really cool too, that it's such a global enterprise. Like she lives in Italy. That's very neat.
Yeah.
Well, Island Creek, those were great questions. Thank you so much. We will come back to you a bit later in the show.
Thank you.
Do you have a question for Maria Gianferrari? Join our conversation and give us a call. So Maria, we do have some email questions. Okay. We're going to go to a few now. Here's one from kindergarten students at Oak Ridge Elementary School. How did they come up with such great ideas when the authors are so old? It's a great kindergarten question.
Yes, my favorite. So one time I did this is not an answer to the question, but it's kind of funny. During a school visit, as kids were coming in, it was kind of an assembly style visit. One of the kids in the front row said, "I thought all authors were dead." So I'm like, no, some of us are alive still. We know where to find the ideas because we're old, I guess. Yeah, we've lived a long life, so we know where to look for them, I guess.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, we have another question. This one is from Kellen. And it says, why did you put breathing exercises at the end of Being a Dog, A Tail of Mindfulness?
Oh, well, it's been a tough couple of years with the pandemic. And a lot of people have experienced, being afraid and some anxiety. And so one simple way that you can do, you don't need any kind of equipment, and you can do it anywhere. You can be in a public space, like in your classroom if you're feeling nervous. And if you do, these deep breathing exercises, it has a calming and relaxing effect. And so physiologically, your brain is getting more oxygen. So that also helps calm you. And it's just, I think it's a simple thing that you can do anywhere to kind of calm yourself down if you're afraid or feeling nervous about something. Like, let's say you have to do a presentation in class and you don't like speaking in public. If you kind of do a few breathing exercises ahead of it, you can kind of help to calm yourself down. So it's, kind of like a soothing coping mechanism that all of us can use.
Yeah, and we had a picture from the book up too for a moment,
Yes.
just to show how it was a step through process. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and as a librarian and someone who works with kids, I'm really grateful that you've chosen to write about mindfulness. I know that it's so important, and I guess with all the topics in the world, you answered this a little bit, but what was it about this that really stuck with you right now?
I think, part of it, so I wrote this before the pandemic happened. And I think it was also, as I said, Becca had died, and it was part of, the grieving process, like trying to feel joy again. And so one of the ways you can do that is by being present and being aware of the moments and just the simple things that you walk outside and you smell the pine needles or something like that. It's just, again, like another thing that's very grounding and helpful when you're going through any kinds of emotions that can be overwhelming, I think. So, and then it works well in the pandemic because we were all experiencing so many different kinds of uncertainty that just trying to connect in nature and find those moments are helpful. And dogs do that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, having those relationships with animals, definitely. And I think, like you said, everyone can use some grounding and some centering throughout the day. And that's a really important thing. So that it's like that roly-poly feeling you get in your stomach sometimes when you're frustrated, worried, or mad. Mindfulness is a tool that can help us become aware of those feelings. And as Maria's book points out, breathing exercises can help us. Let's take a look at a few ways we can become more mindful.
What is mindfulness? Mindfulness means connecting with the present, noticing how you feel, and what is happening in that moment. It can help us pause and use our senses to explore the environment around us. Here are a few examples of mindful activities. Number 1. Take notice. Focus on identifying objects of certain shapes and colors in your environment. This focuses your brain into the present. For example, find 3 items that are square. Find 2 items that are orange. Find 1 item that is a cone. Number 2. Mindful walking. Feeling stressed, tired, or just need a break? Try taking a short mindful walk. As you walk, try to be as silent as you can. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? Mindful walking can help you connect with the present and feel calm. Number 3. Square breathing. You can practice paying attention to your breath whenever you think of it. You can practice mindful breathing anytime you stop and pay attention to your breath. Take notice of how your body feels right now, and again after you try square breathing. What do you notice?
Well, Maria, it's not easy to be mindful all the time. How do you try to incorporate mindfulness into your daily routine and into your work? How do you do that?
It's a struggle. Some days are easier than others. So one thing I like to do in the morning is in our kitchen, I sit and have my morning cup of tea and I watch the birds that come to my bird feeder. And that's just a very sort of relaxing way for me to start the day, just observing the birds, what they're doing. And it's sort of peaceful. I think a lot of people during the pandemic also got into bird watching. So I love birds. So that's one way. And then the little segment talked about mindful nature walking, and there is a section in the book about that. So I have some woods behind my house that I like to walk in.
Those sound like great techniques and things that almost anybody can do, very practical.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to our Island Creek students and take some more of their questions. So go ahead, Crocs, we're ready for you. Who has the first question?
My name is Cole. Why do you like being an author?
Why do I like being an author? It's kind of, I get to sort of explore my curiosities and things that I'm interested in that I wonder about and do research and share it with the world. And I get to, if I wanted, I could write in my pajamas. I work from home. So I like that part too, that I have that privacy and time to be alone. The reflecting time is very important to me and part of the writing process too. So time to think.
All right. Who has the next question?
Hi, my name is Abigail. Do you write any chapter books?
I haven't yet written any, but I have some ideas for some. So hopefully there'll be some longer works in the future coming. But right now I don't have anything in the pipeline yet.
All right, we have another question from Island Creek. Hello.
Hi.
My name is Elodie. Can you tell us about your other dog books?
My other dog books, besides being a dog, okay, I brought all my books kind of over here so I could, let's see. Oh, so this is another book about Becca. It's kind of loosely based on her rescue story because she came on a transport truck from Tennessee. It's called Operation Rescue Dog. Then I have a book called Hello, Goodbye Dog. Oh, this is the Spanish version, La Perdedora y Adios. And it's about a dog named Moose who doesn't want to say goodbye to her best friend, Zara. She likes hellos and not goodbye. And the other two books, I have Officer Katz and Houdini, which is kind of a silly book. This one here. And then the Penny and Jelly books, which is about a girl named Penny and her canine best friend, Jelly. And that's sort of loosely based. So this is I'll just hold this up quickly. This is Becca when she was around 1, and I have one daughter named Anya, and she was 6 in this photo. And I call this the best friends photo. So Anya didn't have any siblings growing up. So Becca was like her dog sister.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing those other books. We'd actually like to learn more about Operation Rescue Dog. And did you have to talk to any rescue volunteers or workers or veterinarians to write this book?
Well, I had experience with having rescued Becca and doing research on organizations and volunteering and that kind of thing. So, and some fundraisers, things like that, to, raise money and awareness for dog rescue in general.
And I know that a common theme found in many of your books is the bond between dogs and humans, and that awesome picture, the best friend picture,
Yeah.
the sisters.
Right.
Why is that so important to you? Why do you think that's so important to kids or people to have those connections with animals?
Well, I think it's with animals, and I think with nature also, the natural world. And I think, when you're kind to an animal, you can also be kind to people. I don't know if that kind of makes sense, but it's just, there's something, again, like with mindfulness, there's a calmness that you feel in the presence of animals and in nature. And I think there are things that we can learn from the natural world and from animals, if we listen, I guess.
Could you tell me a little bit more about Hello, Goodbye Dog?
Sure. Hello, Goodbye Dog was kind of loosely based, again, like all of my fiction books had Becca in mind. So not to have a spoiler, but so the dog Moose hates to say goodbye and only wants to say hello. So she keeps following Zara, the little girl, to school. And then by the end of the story, Zara figures out a way that Moose can stay in school with her. And so Moose becomes a therapy kind of reading dog. And so kids can read to her in the classroom and she can visit. So I don't know if any of you guys have participated in reading programs. You can read to shelter dogs, but then they also have therapy dogs that come to schools, excuse me, and visit And I have another book that's coming out next year. It's called Two Dogs with Love. And that's kind of a love letter to therapy dogs of all kind. So I'm looking forward to that one releasing as well.
Oh, I'm looking forward to reading that one. And I know our like second grade friends at Island Creek are probably too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have time for some more questions from Island Creek. So let's go back to them now. So hi, what's your question?
Hello, my name is Arya. What writing advice do you have for kids?
What writing? That's a great question. And thank you for being so patient. You had to wait a long time there to ask your question. So what writing advice? I guess the best advice I could give is to write about something that you love and that you're passionate about or curious or that you wonder about, because that's going to be kind of the most authentic experience that you can have when your feelings are part of what you're writing too. So, yeah, something like that. I love dogs and animals, so that's what I write about.
That's awesome. I love that. As a librarian especially, because we're so curious and we want to explore all of our wonders.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Island Creek, for joining us today. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
And Maria, could you tell us a little bit more about your writing routine? Like, how do you organize your time?
Well, I usually write a little bit in the morning and then walk the dog. And then when she's taking a nap, I write some more. Sometimes I do some reading in the afternoon. And part of the process too is research. So especially when I'm writing nonfiction. So then often I watch videos, I read books, I read articles, and then I take notes and try to figure out how I want to organize the material before I start writing. So,
well, and like you said, sometimes you gather information by observing, like watching those live cameras. And I know that's such a great resource to kids all around the country. They have so many zoos that offer that ability. Do you take notes when you watch those, or how do you choose which animal? Like, because I'm curious about them all, so I don't know how to start.
I guess it's just whatever is kind of speaking to me at the moment. Like I might have, so for example, the Coyote book, this book, Coyote Moon.
Yes, which won some awards here in Virginia.
Yep. I had a sighting, this kind of special moment where I saw this coyote, and it felt almost like a spiritual experience. And so that set me on the course of learning more about coyotes. And then I kind of became obsessive about it. And that's how that book sort of evolved. So it might be something like that. Wanting, having this sighting, wanting to learn more about them, doing research. I interviewed a scientist. I had to go through many, many drafts before it arrived in its current form. And so it might be something like that, or it might be just, again, something that I'm curious about. I heard something about, or
yeah, I love that, because there's so many ways that kids can keep going further with their interests, and then they can produce their own information about those animals or whatever they're curious about.
Yes, I can tell you one more funny story about this.
Yeah, please do.
Tongues. So my husband's German, and when our daughter was around 2.5, we took a sabbatical and went to Berlin for a year. And so she grew up bilingual, speaking English and German. And so she was obsessed with tongues, and she kept saying the German word, Zunge, Zunge, every time we saw something in a book or we passed a dog on the street that was panting. And so that I started thinking about tongues, and then I did research and found all these really cool animal tongues. And so that's how that book was born. So there are different ways that, but it took a long time. She was 2.5 when I first had the idea, and this book didn't come out till 2013.
Oh, wow.
Wait, no, not 2013, 2018.
Wow. So, I mean, just to let our kids who are watching know, it can take a long time for a book to become a book. It starts as an idea, then you do the research. Could you talk a little bit maybe about that process for our...
Sure. So yes, it has an idea, then you have to find the right voice, Is it going to be kind of funny? Is it going to be more serious and poetic? I would say this book is kind of more humorous, and this book is more poetic, for example. So, and I work with my critique partners. So they're my other writer author friends that we share our work together and then give feedback. So that's a very important part of the process as well. And then the manuscript gets acquired by an editor at a publishing house, and then it may go through some more revision there. And then once an artist signs on, it takes usually at that point at least a couple of years before the book to be published. Sometimes there are also delays at the publisher, like with the pandemic, or I had an illustrator for personal reasons drop out of a project, and they had to find a new one. So there are different issues that sometimes affect the publication. So that's what happened with Terrific Tongues. That's why it took so long. It was acquired in 2013, but it didn't come out until 2018.
Well, and like you said, it sounds like there's a lot of independent thinking when you're writing a book as an author, but then there's also a lot of peer work and collaboration that has to take place.
Absolutely.
And you also mentioned finding the right tone for a book. My 5th graders right now at school are currently working on that to try to figure out how they want to write their own pieces. What kind of advice do you have about choosing the right tone?
I guess it's, voice and tone and structure kind of all play a role. So if you, and thinking about, who your audience is and what you want them to get out of reading your book, your manuscript. So, for example, with Coyote Moon, I just wanted kids to be aware. So this takes place in a suburban setting, like the setting where I saw my coyote. And I wanted, I guess I would say theme is also important. I wanted to talk about how coyotes live among us and how we can appreciate that. So that, and it's also a nighttime book. So I think the tone of that is a softer, more poetic tone.
It almost was like a bedtime story, I thought. Like when you said that it was poetic, and I went back to my memory of reading it, and it's like nighttime. It's almost like a lullaby as the kids are in bed and these coyotes are coming out to walk amongst them. That's really cool.
Yeah, and Hello Goodbye Dog, for example, once I found the Hello Goodbye structure, that kind of, and that has some humor in it because of the dog, always going into and, bursting into the cafeteria and causing chaos and that kind of thing. So, I think you have to sort of reflect on all of those elements to figure out what is because you can tell stories or arrange, like if something's expository in many, many different ways. So, and sometimes it's helpful to experiment, try a bunch of different things, and then which is the one that speaks to you most, kind of. I think that's sort of important, just to remind yourself that, yes, revision is part of the process. We don't like to revise sometimes. You just want to just write it once and then have it done. But realistically, so that's what happened with Being a Dog. I did very little revision, but with most of my books, it's lots of revision to like kind of find the right voice and path and structure. So that's why it's also good to pick something that you love, because you're gonna be stuck with it for a while.
Well, it sounds so cool that you can rewrite the same story with a different tone and have a totally different experience with it. So thank you for that advice.
Yeah.
And thank you, Island Creek. You guys were amazing today. It was so wonderful to have you. Thanks again. And thank you, Maria. It was just wonderful chatting about your doggone good books.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
If you would like to learn more about Maria Gianferrari, visit her website. To learn more about our upcoming programs, visit the Fairfax Network. For the Fairfax Network, I'm Emily Godfrey. Keep reading, keep writing, and keep dreaming. Thanks for watching.